This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
He's Greg, I'm Nick. It's the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles, brought to you by our friends at Athletic Greens. 75 high-quality vitamins to help you start your day just the way you want to start your day, which is right. The Patriots blasted the Colts on Sunday, 26-3. We improved to 8-1 if you're keeping track at home. Ooh. Our picks. This one I felt was a pretty easy one, given all the circumstances and given that Colts team. And as we saw, Frank Reich is now gone from Indianapolis. Jeff Saturday is in. Let's start with the very, very good defensively. Your thoughts about the game overall, and start with the defense.
Yeah, I thought the defense completely overwhelmed the Colts. We knew going in that the Colts offensive line wasn't very good. They were down, I think they were to the third left tackle, and then they also benched their right guard, Pryor, who on film to me was one of the weakest parts of their team, and the Patriots went right after him with stunts early on, and like for the first play of the game. I mean, it was just pretty easy. They got Judon on the left side, came under. Pryor just couldn't move his feet quick enough, and they just kept doing that over and over again, and they just overwhelmed the Colts, who, didn't have Jonathan Taylor, their running back, they had just traded away Nyheim Hines, their really good sort of scat running back. And so, and they're going with Sam Ehlinger, and apparently, Jeff Saturday said he's going to continue to start. They're going to ride this thing into the ground. And it started with the Patriots game. They did play better. They held a lead against Washington the week before. Say what you want about Washington. But the big thing, Nick, that surprised me about this game, because I thought, we picked the Patriots to win and cover the spread. And I think I picked it somewhere around like 20-10 or something like that. Like, I thought the Colts would do something offensively, because what I saw on film with them against Washington was, they did a lot of sort of, quick game behind the line, move the quarterback. Like, I thought they were, and then I thought they would build on that. Look at the film that the Bears had with Justin Fields against the Patriots and do more of that stuff. Not that Ehlinger's Justin Fields or anything, but he can move a little bit. And that's actually the best part of his game as a quarterback. It was coming out that he's a tough son of a gun. He can make plays with his feet. Like, he's almost like a safety playing quarterback, sort of, Tebow-esque, very similar to Ryan Tannehill when he first started in this league. And I thought they would do more of that stuff, and they just did none of that stuff. It was just like real simple drop back, handoff, like conventional stuff. And, once I saw that, I was like, oof, this game's over.
The creativity or lack thereof from the offensive play calling was stunning to me. I tweeted at Nick C Radio. I know all of you follow Greg. Give me a follow at Nick C Radio on Twitter. But I tweeted out during the game, I was shocked that they did not use their mobile quarterback. Like, if you look, and you and I have talked about this, the issue for the Patriots defense, and it's been consistent, is their inability to defend mobile quarterbacks. We saw it with Justin Fields. We saw it with Lamar Jackson. We saw it with Josh Allen. You go back to Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago from a few years ago. And the fact that they had like zero designed runs. I mean, they tried it once or twice with some read option stuff, but I thought for sure they would get Ehlinger, out of the pocket, move him around more, use his legs with some of the read option things that you can do. And they did none of that. It was just straight X's and O's. And I thought, and it's not to take anything away from the Patriots defense, because they were exceptional, especially, again, Matthew Judon and Josh Uche really popped in this one as well. But, when you go back and you watch that game, man, there was just no creativity. And, of course, Frank Reich, it helped cost him his job. I think the Colts are tanking. If you look, they have the 5th toughest schedule remaining in the NFL. They're sitting at 14 right now. They want a young quarterback. I think they roll with Jeff Saturday. They give him some money. He does a solid for Irsay, and they just continue to tank the rest of the year. Before we get to the offense, Greg, for the Patriots, it is a part of this conversation. So Reich is no longer in Indy, and I'm wondering would it make sense for Bill Belichick to place a phone call and try to bring Reich in as a consultant to this offense or some kind of coaching role offensively? Because he is, aside from what you saw on Sunday, he is a well-regarded play caller as we go back to the Eagles days, which none of us want to remember. But he's got a really good resume when it comes to, running an offense and being creative. Any thought to that? Belichick picking up a phone? Do they have a relationship? Any shot of that? Or is he too married to Patricia?
No, it's a good question. I don't know if they have any sort of relationship. Not Reich specifically, but I would be, and it would be a little bit tough because it is sort of, different schemes. I don't think, what Reich has done in his past really fits into what the Patriots do. But but your general concept and your general question, I'm all in favor of. I mean, this is, I don't know why they just, and I'm sure we'll get more into this about, where the offense is and how do you sort of fix things and what are some of the big problems with this unit. But, just somebody who can come in and lend a hand to, Matt Patricia, because it's obvious that with the failings on the offensive line and with the offense as a whole, he's drowning right now. And bring in Charlie Weiss. I don't really care. Just bring somebody in to help and say, point them in the right direction and say, okay, this is what you want to do, but this is really the way you need to do it in terms of an offense and a quarterback and things like that. Frank Reich I have a ton of respect for him. I think he's a really good offensive coordinator. I thought he was a really good head coach. Just, things got off the rails with the quarterback position and their personnel on the offensive line, but there's no question that he knows how to coach, and he knows how to coach offensive football. So I would be all in favor of him or anybody else of his ilk coming in and helping the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, that dude had Jakobi Brissett. He had Carson Wentz. He had Matt Ryan. He was given Ellinger to try to, work on him. He hasn't had many good quarters. He thought he was walking into Andrew Luck and ended up with all of that, which is just just awful bad luck for him. No pun intended. All right, offensively, you said Patricia is drowning. I'm just going to lay this out here as a layman, and then I want you to break it down as a guy who studies the film and has done this for a long, long time. What I see from this offense is zero creativity, zero misdirection pre-snap, maybe every once in a grand while. Not a ton of RPO this past weekend. When you go back 2 weeks ago, they did run more RPO. And just an overall feel, Greg, they don't utilize their weapons. You draft Tyquan Thornton because of his unbelievable speed, but you're not running jet sweeps with him. You're not giving him any kind of screen passes. You're not really putting him in a position to utilize the speed. So that's what I see. What did you see on Sunday?
Well, I mean, just overall, what I see is an offense that's completely broken at this point. And, look, it's 9 games into the season. The season is not over. The bye week's coming. They could get this thing back together somehow in some sort of form. I am not ruling that out, despite even what we saw in the summer. I never buried this offense and say they're going to be totally inept. I figured they would get it together at some point. It hasn't happened here. And really, it's only happened in 2 games. And of course, the Bailey Zappi zealots out there want to say well, this offense worked when Bailey was out there. And that's a whole different discussion where people don't want to use context. But just the short answer to that is, okay, fine. It worked well against the Browns and the Lions. We won't talk about their defenses or anything like that. How'd it look in the second half against the Bears? Okay. Which, if you took Bailey Zappi outside of 2 plays that they made, wide open guy and a jump ball, how did it look against the Bears? And did it look any different than the offense, how the offenses looked the past 2 games? Not really. And so, to me, this all starts with the offensive line. The offensive line is a complete disaster at this point. This past week, even though it was a little bit better, and some of this might have been dictated by score in the second half, but they gave up, again, pressure was 38%. That's a lot. I mean, it's not the 48% it's been, but that's still a lot for a pocket passer. Their stuff percentage in the running game, 45% this week. I mean, that's just it's atrocious. So even before you get into the quarterback, and I know people love to talk about the quarterback, and they think that just because they had Tom Brady here, that you can snap a finger and a good quarterback's going to make everything better. It's just not the way it works for the other 31 teams. When you don't have the greatest quarterback of all time, I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's not how it works. And you need everything to work when you don't have Tom Brady, or at least, some of it. They can't block the run, which we figured they would be able to do coming into this year. They can't pass block. Now they're going in and out with personnel. Started Yadni Kajus. They must listen to the podcast, because I was yelling last week about, like, if he can't start at right tackle now, what's he doing on this roster? So now he's out here starting, and he was okay. I thought that I'm just looking at my stats. I thought that he did a good job in the running game. A little bit of a tough time in the pass protection, but that puts him in with everybody else. Cole Strange gets benched in this game for the second straight game. Now they're putting Isaiah Wynn at guard, and of course they didn't have David Andrews, so that hurts. But any good offense, you need a foundation. And the foundation of any offense is the offensive line. I know people love to ignore it. They love to make fun of me for concentrating on the offensive line. But when an offense goes bad, it's usually because the offensive line is bad. And right now it's bad. Matt Patricia is the coach of that. That, to me, is job number one. And even before we get into Mac Jones and his issues, they got to figure out a way to block things better and in the running game, pass protection, start there. Once you start there and are better there, then other things have a chance at working. Before you can get into the quarterbacks or the weapons, and I completely agree with you. I was going through some of my stats and I'm like, wait a minute. Did Kendrick Bourne played in this game? Did Nelson Aguilar played in this game? Lynn Bowden played in this game? I don't even remember them out there. And so, even before you get into that stuff, you have to talk about the offensive line. And right now, that unit has just done a complete nosedive from earlier this season.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, it's just bad football up front. And you hope David Andrews comes back from the concussion with the bye week now, and they settle it a little bit. Cole Strange has been a disaster without David Andrews. And first round pick, not ideal, right? So you don't want to be benching your first round pick in back-to-back weeks when you're in the middle of a football season. And that's where the Patriots are with Cole Strange. He's not been good enough. Simple as that. And, you look on the right side, it's been a problem. I'd say at least Kajust wasn't an absolute train wreck, which is an upgrade from what they've had. Maybe Win at guard is going to work out. Maybe that's what you think about. Maybe you move him to right guard and, Owenu to right tackle if Kajust doesn't work out. But we should not be. Here's the problem. Here's the problem, folks. These are the conversations that you should not be having in the middle of a season. You should not be trying to figure out your offensive line combinations and who is starting for you in front of who is supposed to be your franchise quarterback. And because you're having these conversations, you screwed up. As simple as that. And we've talked about it before. Patricia is just spread too thin. Offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, trying to learn how to be an OC. And some of, if not most of, his issues have to do with that. I'm telling you from personal experience, I've had 2 full-time jobs here in Sacramento over the last year. And it's really difficult to do 2 full-time jobs, folks, because you're spread thin and, you can't always dedicate yourself to one job because you're looking at both jobs. So they have not put him in a position to succeed. The weapons. I honestly feel like when you walk in, because we'll get into Mac Jones very deeply here in a few minutes, but I feel like they walk into a game, Greg, and they say, okay, how can we make sure we get Ramondre Stevenson involved? Which is fine by me because Ramondre is the best player on this offense.
Yep.
But outside of that, it's like, what are you doing with the tight ends consistently to make them effective and impactful? What are you doing with Thornton? And you mentioned Bourne and Aguilar. What are you doing to give them some easy catches, to utilize their ability, their speed? What are you doing to get the athletic Jonnu Smith the football more on? Like, it's just, all right, and if I had to see them in the first quarter run on a first down under center into a heavy box, I was going to smash my television. Like, what are we? You're constantly at 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11 early in this game. Like, figure it out. Like, Bill Belichick, go to Patricia's. Like, stop with the in between the tackles run plays up the middle against, stacked boxes, Matt. It's not working, Matt. And finally, they throw a screen to Jonnu, and it kind of opened things up a little bit. Like, I don't know what their approach is, Greg, from week to week offensively.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And, before we get into Mac, this is what I'll say about the offense. And I'm watching it, and Dan Orlovsky had some interesting tweets. I hope he goes on TV and talks about this stuff, at some point, because I want to, he's an expert. He's played the position. He knows what it's like. He's been in game planning, and he's certainly critical. But, this is the overreaching thing with the offense is that, when Belichick named Matt Patricia and Joe Judge in charge of the offense, or, didn't name them, just kept them there, didn't give them titles or anything like that. I'm sure part of the thinking, and we heard this from some of the players, and also I think even Patricia, would say himself, like, his years as defensive coordinator give him a lot of insight into defenses and how to attack it. We heard stuff like that. I heard it from the fans, like, oh, this is going to give us an edge. He knows what defenses, how they're going to react to certain things and what gives them trouble and stuff like that. Okay, that's fine. That's all well and good. But the most important job for an offensive coordinator, and I've been spoiled watching some of the guys, whether it's in Green Bay with Mike McCarthy and his guys, or Josh McDaniels when he was here, and watching these guys. The most important thing it's not the stuff against the defense and figuring out what's going to, that's like 3rd, 4th, 5th down the list. The most important thing that an offensive coordinator has to do, a play caller has to do, is figure out, okay, where are my players? Where are my offensive players, and how do I get them the ball? How do I put them in position to succeed? What do I need to do to get my quarterback into a rhythm when obviously he's out of rhythm, or he's been beaten up, or there's been a lot of pressure? Like, how do I do that? Before you even get into the defense, you got to take care of your own guys. And to me, that's where the disconnect is, that, we've mentioned this before, that Matt Patricia doesn't have any idea how to help Mac Jones. That's the thing. It's like, I don't care what you see on the defense. How are you going to help your quarterback? Because if you can't help your quarterback, none of that stuff matters. I made a few good men reference a few weeks ago. I'll make another one here. It's the difference between paper law and trial law. Like, it's one thing to think about this stuff in meetings. It's another thing in the game, in the courtroom, to say, okay, that didn't work. So what are we going to do to put it back on track? He obviously has no idea how to do that, or else 9 weeks into the season, they wouldn't be here. And it's against any defense that's worth a salt, not the Lions, not the Browns, missing some of their best players, but against, some pretty good defenses with guys in the secondary who cover, like, the Jets aren't blowing any coverages. The Bears aren't blowing any coverages. And, this week the Colts are pretty good, with their, cover 3 zone. At least they have Gilmore and Kenny Moore out there. So you're not going to get a whole lot of busts. And Patricia just doesn't know how to get things on track. And we'll talk more about Mac after I tell you about Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 because I wanted to make sure I was getting all the vitamins and nutritional supplements I needed in one place. Now I've been on it for a month. Or 4 months, and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It's kind of a mild tropical taste, a little bit minty, and I look forward to it each morning. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sorts, ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things you're looking for. I take it first thing in the morning. It's now part of my morning routine, and I'd be lost without it. I love how it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Bedard. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Bedard to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right, for people who might think that Greg is just ragging on Matt Patricia, or he's got some kind of bias, or he's got some ulterior motive, let's go to somebody outside of Greg Bedard. And Greg mentioned Dan Orlovsky when you're wondering what's wrong with this offense. And there's a tweet exchange between Orlovsky and DJ Bean. And here's what Orlovsky tweets first. If anyone tells you it's Mac Jones's issue in New England, they're out of their freaking minds. The offense has completely regressed this player, and it's awful. Bean then jumps in and tweets at Orlovsky, wrong. He isn't the problem, but he hasn't been very good. And Orlovsky responds to that. How can a QB be good when the playbook stinks, the play calls stink, the offensive line can't protect, the timing is awful, the spacing is poor, and no one wins in their routes? Greg, the floor is yours.
Okay. So Dan knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. And, you know, what I see is just there's a complete disconnect in the passing game. And it's led to the point where, you know, there are some plays. There was a stretch in the third and fourth quarter where I had Mac Jones as 3+ plays, 7- plays in this game. So he wasn't good. I had a fourth, the touchdown pass to Stevenson. I ended up taking it away. I might revisit that. I thought it was a good pass in a tight spot, and so we might revisit that. But anyways, he was not good in this game, and a lot of the issues that I had in the second half, when I had him in the second half, I had him 1+ play. It was actually the throw behind, quote unquote, behind Jakobi Meyers that everybody's like, well, that wasn't a good pass. Actually, on film, and I don't know this is my guess, that Mac was right, that Jakobi Meyers just should have turned around and just sat in the zone, and that's where Mac threw the ball. Except Jakobi kept going to the sideline, and that's why it was, quote unquote, behind him. I think Mac saw it right. Jakobi saw it wrong, but it ended up working out. So, you know, good throw from Mac, because if he would have let him, and even Archuleta said this on the telecast, it would have been picked off. There was a cornerback coming underneath, and that's why Mac sort of wanted him to stay there. And Jakobi did a nice job adjusting. So in the end, it worked out for everybody. So both of them get pluses on that play. But there were a bunch of plays where, you know, Mac, like there was a throw that he had to Tyquan Thornton, and it was in the red zone in the third quarter. I think it was their second drive. It was after the Jakobi Meyers fumble. He had Tyquan Thornton one-on-one, which I don't mind the decision. The throw wasn't good. He got a minus on that play. He didn't really give Thornton a chance, but there was a better play, Hunter Henry in the right seam off of sort of the RPO fake, where it's like, okay, boom, go right to Hunter, but he's not looking there. And this is puzzling to me. And you see, and I saw this over and over in this game where you're just like, how come Mac's not looking over there? How come he's looking over here? And I never had those questions last year with Mac Jones. There were never times where I'm just like, well, he saw this wrong, or his eyes are in the wrong place. And so that leads me back to the construct of the offense. And I think this is what Orlovsky's getting at. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are disjointed. Like they'll have really deep routes, but Mac's in the shotgun only in a 2-step drop. And what's he to get those routes to develop? What's he supposed to do? Stand there for 4 seconds, and then you see some of the panic. Like if you have deep routes, then a good coordinator says, okay, we want to hit these deep routes. Well, okay, then you script it under center, play action, a 7-step drop. By the time the quarterback gets to his drop, now the guys are down the field. Now he can make choices. And then the other thing is like there's no levels to the offense. Like usually with Josh McDaniels, when he would call plays, like on the same side of the field, or at least in the general area where the quarterback is looking, you would have a deep option, an intermediate option, and then sort of an outlet. In this offense, it's either all or nothing. Like there's no levels to the offense. And then when you talk about checkdowns, and I know Archuleta must have mentioned checkdowns a couple times, about 10 times in that game, about getting quicker to the checkdowns. Okay, that's fine. But you also have to take into account that, number one, a lot of the checkdowns are being used on chips on the end first. So it's tough to see whether they're going to be open, and they get open very late. But the bigger thing to me is like on that Tyquan Thornton play, so he had Henry, he has Thornton, and then there's an outlet, but it's all the way on the other side of the field. So as a quarterback, Matt Patricia, because he doesn't think about it as a quarterback, he thinks about it as a defensive coordinator. As a quarterback, you're like, okay, really my option number one is Hunter Henry. Okay, I don't like that. Then I'm coming back, I'm moving my shoulders to the left sideline. Now I'm going to look at number two. Then, no, okay, I don't have that. Where's my outlet? It's all the way freaking over here. Like, it doesn't make any sense when you watch it on paper. It's just a disjointed freaking mess that you're like, no wonder the quarterback doesn't have any clue. And you just, you compare it to Zappe, and it was different because, Patricia was confined. He knew Zappe couldn't do a lot. So it was like, all right, we're going under center, play action. This is your read, or this is your read. And it was very simple. Like, this is just like, it's like, all right, here you go, Mac. Like, we're just going to put you in the shotgun. You might do this stupid RPO read, which doesn't do anything at the NFL level. This isn't Alabama anymore. It doesn't freeze anybody. Nobody's fooled because you're not running with the ball. It's not like you're Lamar Jackson back there or anything. And then we're running all these deep routes, and all these guys are all over the field, which, we want to spread the defense out. But, like, now you need to figure it out. Behind a line that can't protect you. Like, this is what I see on film a vast majority of the time, and I just don't get it. And it just needs to be completely revamped during the bye week, and they need to really sort of confine everything and constrict everything going forward, or else it's just going to continue to be like this.
When Mac Jones was drafted, we talked about his processing ability, his football intelligence, his anticipation, his accuracy, his pocket manipulation and movement. And through the first year of his NFL career, all of that was proven true. Check, 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 check. Now we move into a second season, and we start to see that regression, and we see the Mac Jones that was there last season and was there at Alabama and was praised throughout the draft process to the point where Kyle Shanahan, if you believe the reports, he wanted to draft Mac at 3. And the Niners people who, whether it was Jed York or Lynch or both, kind of talked him out of it and led him to Trey Lance. All of that is starting to regress. And folks, sometimes you just think with common sense. I know in this world where we all yell at each other, by the way, happy election day. In this world where we all yell at each other and we all want to blame this person, that person. Do you think Mac Jones woke up in training camp and just forgot all of the things he was strong at? Do you think he woke up and just forgot how to read defenses? Do you think he just woke up and lost his accuracy overnight in his early 20s? Do you think this guy just forgot how to play football? What I see and what Greg is telling you and what Dan Orlovsky is telling you, this is a quarterback that we're not saying he's playing great. He played better last week than people thought. He didn't play well this week, but there are reasons for that. And Mac looks like a guy who's thinking through everything. And he looks like a guy who doesn't trust anything around him, doesn't know what to expect, doesn't know if he's going to get hammered on any given play because his O-line stinks, doesn't know what his offensive coordinator is doing and why he's doing it. He knows more about offense than his offensive coordinator. That should never be the thing unless you're like Brady playing for 25 years. Like, it's absurd. And we talked about this in the offseason. And our number one concern was that they would they would cause a regression from Mac Jones. This was predictable. We talked about it before the season kicked off because of what they did, because of the Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, too many jobs, too few people, the changings, the tweaks of the offense, all the stuff we went through. That's why we went through it. And now here we are, fortunately at 5-4 because the defense is playing well and Nick Folk is a football god. Other than that, what are we doing here? And you're seeing it. The worst thing that I said, the worst thing that can happen for this football team, I don't even care about the record as much as I care about Mac Jones and his progression. You drafted him 15th in the draft. He's your franchise quarterback. He should be your franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. And if you screw that up, then you screw everything up. And what we're seeing right now is a bad handling of a young quarterback and having a guy in charge of an offense that could not find his ass with two hands and a flashlight at night. That's what we're seeing right now. And until they do some changes, it's going to remain that way. And guess what? Mac ain't going to get better, folks. He's not going to improve when it's a complete bleep show around him. All right, lightning round of 3 up, 3 down. Let's start with 3 up, Greg.
Yeah, Matthew Judon again. I think this is like every game. I had him for 9 pluses, 0 minuses. Josh Uche not far behind. 5 pluses, 0 minuses, and then Ramondre Stevenson, 8 pluses, 0 minuses. Thank God for Ramondre Stevenson in this offense.
Could you imagine if they did not have Ramondre Stevenson, how bad this thing would look? Let's talk about 3 down. Okay.
Cole Strange. He did not play much. I had him for a -4 on 15 plays. I still don't look, he got off to, even when he came back into the game later in the game, it was like his first 3 plays were like minus plays. I mean, it's bad. It's almost as bad as I don't agree with the benching. I'll just say that. It's almost as bad as the Mac Jones thing. And what are you doing and trying to kill a kid? And are you really getting better with Isaiah Wynn out there? Also on my minuses, let's see. Oh, Kendrick Bourne, I wanted to mention. I thought he didn't run hard through the route on the first third down, had a drop. He had some other issues in the game, including there was a play in the second half where he ran a dog crap route with very little effort. The first time I've ever seen that from him on film. I don't know if he thought it was a running play. Everybody else was running their routes, but he was just jogging down the field. And, I did not like that. And my 3rd down would be, I guess it would be Mac Jones. I just, they need to help him. He needs to be a little bit better. But he was not good in this game. He needs more help.
Matt Patricia, throw him in there. Just pile on that. You're going against, I think DVOA wise, this was like a top 5 or 6 run defense. You're inside the 5 and you go back-to-back runs, and it's just nothing creative, nothing pre-snap to throw them off, just straight up, shotgun handoff, shotgun, a little pump fake for the screen that it's not going to work, and then the handoff again, try in between the tackles, and you get 2 run stuffs, and now you're 3rd and goal, and you got a fire drill on your hands. It's just not good enough. The BSJ member question of the day, Greg, of course, $39.99 on the annual plan. Get all the great Boston sports coverage. And you can also check out Greg's film sessions that he does on BSJ, along with his chats that he also takes part in. What do you got for the member question of the day?
So Sid asks, on the naked boot, and this is from that drive that I was talking about, the first play, actually, he's talking about after the Jakobi Meyers fumble. Why even have Jakobi run a route if Matt can't get him the ball when he's wide open? Just a pure clear out decoy. Honestly, didn't seem like it was that hard of a throw to me. So if you go on to BSJ, you'll see this. I broke down that whole drive. There was some good Mac on the play. There was some bad Mac on that drive. And this first play, so what they did was they ran sort of an RPO boot play action. And this is this is another example of the disconnect. So they have Jakobi Meyers, who's open, but he's 20, 25 yards down the field, and Mac's rolling to his right. And Mac doesn't throw the ball probably because that's not his type of throw. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Like, that's just not what he does. Really, I do think it was really that's a clear out route. But the problem was underneath, Jonnu Smith is supposed to run a little drag across, and he should be open in the 10-yard area, and then he could turn and go. The problem is that Jonnu, instead of going under the linebacker, goes over the linebacker, gets hit, and then Stephon Gilmore picks him up. So the intermediate route isn't even there. And that's when he came and he threw to Tyquan Thornton, I think it was, for 5 yards right along the sidelines. And so that's just it was a difficult throw to get it out to Meyers. It's not what Mac Jones does. And to me, that's another example of an offensive coordinator not understanding his players and what he needs to do to make them successful.
He's Greg. I'm Nick, hoping that this offense somehow finds some answers during the bye week and they get to figure some things out, especially up front. And we start to allow the young quarterback to do what he does best. Call me crazy. You go through shotgun formation, up-tempo offense, third quarter against the Jets with Mac making some decisions at the line of scrimmage. You march right down the field and you get a touchdown out of it. A lot of short routes, a lot of things like that, like you saw before. And then this game, we're going back to what we've done with some vertical routes and trying to run between the tackles against stacked boxes and some of the stuff Greg's talked about. I just feel like it's like they're just literally picking stuff out of a hat at this point, going, all right, what do we do here? Let's run this play. They have to figure this thing out, or it's going to get worse, folks. And let's hope that they do figure it out so we don't have to witness a football game offensively like we had to on Sunday, because it's making me say Wednesday instead of Sunday. That's how bad it was. He's Greg. I'm Nick. Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles, brought to you by Athletic Greens. Be well, be good, and be healthy.